have a proper strategy to invest in all asset classes on a global basis, and we are building the teams to invest in all sectors.
Investing sustainably is not an option, it's a must.
We have the tools we need and the knowledge we need to implement the strategy.
A collaborative effort for the benefit of the future generations of Qatar and the world.
Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's editor-in-chief, John Micklethwaite.
Thank you. Your Highness, Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I should confess that on my piece of paper it says gentleman, but I will take a massive risk that there's more than one. I'm so pleased you're here with us to be for the Qatar Economic Forum Gala dinner. Bloomberg has one of the world's largest newsrooms, and we're dedicated to covering this region. We have one of the biggest foreign presences in the Gulf, and we will continue to grow that, particularly as the Gulf and this particular country, Qatar, becomes an ever bigger center of global trade, technology, finance. And convening events like this, like the Qatar Economic Forum, is just one example of our commitment to covering this dynamic region, where we have a growing presence. Many of the journalists who work for me, who come to pester you, are from here, and we will continue to grow that. I'd like to thank the Qatar Investment Authority for making this special dinner possible. Thank you, Your Excellency, Mansour Al-Moud, the CEO of the Qatar Investment Authority. Thank you also. Thank you for your support, and thank you also for putting up with me as an interrogator earlier today. And now, I would like to welcome to the stage somebody who is a gentleman. I can attest from having had dinner with him many before, Jeff Koons, to the stage in conversation with my colleague, Francine Lacqua. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage artist Jeff Koons for a conversation with Bloomberg's Francine Lacqua.
Good evening, everyone. Jeff Koons, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Francine.
Jeff, we have 20 minutes to really try and understand what you love about what you do, what is frustrating, where you see the art world going. You're one of the most prominent art stars in the world. If you look at some of your pieces, they also fetched record highs. But who is Jeff Koons? What do you think makes Jeff Koons Jeff Koons?
Well, you know, sometimes I have to pinch myself, and I realize that you're speaking about myself and some of the things that I'm looked at for accomplishments. But I'm a person who I think I was very fortunate. I was brought up in a family that showed a lot of love and support to each other. And art from a very young age was something that helped me define myself. I had an older sister, and my sister Karen, because of being 3 years older, she could do everything better. And finally, art was something that I could do that my parents made me feel like there was something that helped define who I was. And art has always been this vehicle which has helped me be connected and engaged with the world.
What do you feel when you see one of your beautiful pieces here in Doha or in someone's house? Do you still have to, do you look at it to make sure everything's perfect, or do you have to take a double take?
You know, I'm very fortunate about, I guess it was about 2 years ago, I had a large exhibition here in Doha at Al Riwaq. And I went into the exhibition. Of course, I worked on laying it out. But I have to say, I really had an awe and wonderment moment looking at the installation, because we had my rabbit was there. We had a large monkey piece that was a stainless steel piece. We had Play-Doh. But I was very, very proud to be able to have this exhibition. It was the first large-scale exhibition that I've had in this region of the world. And it's just been wonderful to have this relationship with Qatar.
I mean, we're looking at some wonderful pictures. So we saw the rabbit first, and now, do you have a favorite piece, or is that like asking you to choose between your children?
Yes, it's a little tough because each work you're engaged with, and you give it everything that you have. You try to make it as communicative as possible. And I'm known for being a perfectionist. I don't think that I'm really a perfectionist, but I do try to finish a work the best I can because I feel a moral obligation to the viewer. I never want the viewer to be left down. There's a story about Steve Jobs that his father took him to the backyard one time and was talking to him about painting the fence, and the fence in between the property, their property and their neighbors. And his father was telling Steve that it's as important to paint the back of the fence as the front of the fence. And Steve will say that's why he put so much time and energy into making the inside of the computer as beautiful and aesthetic and as clean as the outside. And I feel that moral responsibility with my work.
What I find amazing in a lot of your artwork is that it takes years. So talk to us. This is one of your most famous pieces, right? The one that you can see behind you for the people in the room and also His Highness. How did you think about doing this balloon dog?
I perform very intuitively. So usually when I start a project, I've already been thinking about the things I'm attracted to, my interests. And usually it's over about a 2-year time period that finally when I'm really committing to make something that, I've been thinking about this really over the last 2 years. But the balloon dog would come from just wanting to make artwork that's accessible, that people don't feel intimidated by it, but at the same time can carry a meaning, and that people can look at it and also feel that, this is an object that has a mythic quality, or it's an object that can also have an inside, which is different than the outside of the sculpture. So to have several different layers of information.
But did you know how to make a balloon dog with the actual balloon, or did you have to learn, and then the process was quite lengthy? Right?
I learned. I took a crash course. I went and I bought some books on learning to tie balloon animals. And actually the balloon dog, I think that I possibly could have created that name because I was always interested. I worked at the Museum of Modern Art, and in the lobby they had a work called Moon Dog. And it was a piece by Miro. And so I was always intrigued by Moondog. But when I was looking at these books on making animals, it would be, a dog, and then dash balloon. Or it would be, or actually it'd be like balloon, dash dog, or balloon swan. And, but eventually I just learned how to make them, and I felt that I put verbally the words together.
I mean, the big ones weigh a lot, right? I mean, they're steel, actually. They look light, and they really look like shiny balloons, but they're not at all.
Yeah. They're stainless steel. And if I would stay with an original, with the membrane of a latex balloon, it could look wonderful this evening, but by tomorrow, it would lose its air. And just as human beings, when we take a deep breath, we have all that energy of life, all that oxygen, and then when we exhale, it's a symbol of death, or kind of your last breath. So to make this permanently optimistic, I had needed to put it in a hard material. And I wanted to have a visual luxury, the abstraction that it would affirm you, the viewer, that you're looking at it, it needs you. If you move around the room, the abstraction changes.
What's also incredible is that you never really work alone. So you have scientists, either from MIT or NASA, and you have also artisans that work with you. How do you choose who you work with, who you involve in the project?
The first scientist that I worked with was Dr. Richard P. Feynman, the Nobel Prize winner. He won for quantum dynamics. But I was reading Time magazine and I saw, oh, there's this physicist who loves art. And so I called up Dr. Feynman and I told him that I would like to create equilibrium. I wanted to create permanent equilibrium, but I wanted to work within the confines of an aquarium and having a basketball just hover in this state of weightlessness. I thought of it as an ultimate state of being. And Feynman was very encouraging. He would tell me that I could do it, and I could not within the confines that I wanted to. But I got a crash course in physics. I learned how to create density gradients. I learned index of refraction of light, and how to actually have the basketball look as though it was in a weightless situation.
Was that the hardest? Is there a hard piece actually to put in place because of the physics and the way that you shaped it? What was the hardest one, or the equally hard to make?
The equilibrium tanks were time-consuming because I would make the water at the bottom of a tank heavier than the water at the top. And you do not want the water blending, because as soon as it becomes homogeneous, the ball will go to the bottom of the tank. So it's time-consuming to layer it. Yeah.
Jeff, did you always want to be an artist? When did you want to be an artist, and when did you realize you could make a living out of it?
I didn't know what art was, even when I went to art school. But when I had my first art history class, and my art history teacher brought up an image of a Manet painting and started to speak about how art so effortlessly can connect you to all the human disciplines. And I realized, I could be involved in physics, as I just mentioned. I could be involved in aesthetics, in theology, in sociology. And I really felt like the luckiest person in the room when I realized that. And there's not a moment, every day I wake up with the same type of excitement for the day because of being involved with this activity that makes me feel so connected to the world.
So this is one of my favorite pieces, and you see it actually on the way to the airport, well, from the airport to here. Talk to us about the dugong.
The image that we're looking at is of a dugong. It's an inflatable sculpture that I made for the World Cup, and it's about 80-some feet high by 115 feet long. And I'm very excited to say that we're looking into and trying to be able to see if we can make this a permanent piece in Doha. And it's one of the most exciting projects that I've ever worked on, and one that I'm extremely proud of, because public art, to be able to have a work where people in an effortless way can be involved, that they can come across something and somebody can say, hey mom, hey dad, come over here, look at this, and can point up to something. Or you can drive by and look at it and think, that just makes me feel a little bit better about today. That was interesting what I just saw. I like that ability that the public can interact so effortlessly.
So this, Jeff, is not a permanent piece because of the materials used. How long would it take to make it in steel and make it last forever?
The dugong should be able to be realized and completed in less than a 3-year time period.
Is there an artwork that you want to make but haven't made yet? Do you have that you think about? I mean, is there something that you've been thinking about for a while?
There are many works, and I'm always working on different pieces. I'm very excited about the dugong. I'm very excited about Doha. Every time I come to Doha and I get off the plane and I'm coming into the city, I can feel the excitement. I feel how special it is, what's being done here, how the environment, the gardens that are being created, the understanding of the place of culture and architecture, and the generosity to all of us, to a world audience, of how our lives can be better and how we can be affected by our environment. So I'm thrilled about these projects, and there is one piece in particular called Train that possibly may have a potential to be made. I don't know. It's a very, very complex piece. But I think if any place would have the vision and the insight to build such a work, it would be here in Doha.
So we may or may not have a picture of the train, but you think about something, you conceptualize it in your head, and it could take, so this is a train that you would love to build to, I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge compared to the little humans. Talk to us about this piece that you would like to make.
What intrigues me about the train is it's a work that I think is at its core, it's in a way quite minimalist because you have a crane, which is a symbol that something's happening, something's being created or being taken down, but something's happening. And you have an image of a train, which is a symbol, it's a symbol of power, it's somewhat nostalgic. But this train would perform depending on how many times, if it's in front of an institution, maybe when the institution opens in the morning, maybe midday, maybe when it closes in the evening. But if you'd be in the public and you'd be around and you're looking at this object, maybe you would start to see heat off the firebox starting to make the light kind of bend, and maybe a little steam coming out of one of the valves. Maybe you hear a gear change. And then later you'll hear, maybe after 30 minutes, because it takes a real train a long time to get ready, but you would hear a bell ring, ding, 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 light would come on, and then and just as we're breathing too, inhaling and exhaling, that's what the pistons of the train are doing. So we can relate to this at the core of our being, that this is related to be a human being. And it continues on a bell curve, going faster and faster every second until it reaches full speed at 80 miles an hour. And at this plateau, woo, 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 woo. And then it goes on the same bell curve down, going slower and slower and slower each second until that last kind of puff of steam. And that's the end of the performance. But during that whole time, you could be standing right underneath the cow catcher. People would be rallied around this performance because they would feel connected to this aspect of history, of a culture, and of a people feeling united about an event, and really how important we are to each other. It will unify people the way a plaza does, different environments to bring people together. I believe the train could be one of my legacy pieces.
How long have you been thinking about the train? And is it actually all-consuming when you have something like that in your head that you... do you change it? Do you perfect it, even if it's not being built?
Francine, 20 years.
20 years.
20 years. But again, I don't know if this can happen, but I couldn't be more honored than to have a work which I really feel is a legacy piece to be in Doha and within this country of Qatar and in this city.
You're also sending art pieces to the moon for them to stay on the moon. I mean, that's not an easy task.
Yes. When you were speaking about the difficulty of a piece, I mean, in all the engineering and all the physics that would go into play to sending something to the moon is very complicated. I've had to deal with temperature changes of 185 centigrade, swings of over 335 degrees Fahrenheit. So just to be able to get the object to the moon without it liquefying or being vibrated to pieces was quite challenging. But I'm sending, Francine, 125 small moons. They're approximately 1 inch in diameter. And each one is a unique moon phase, which is this is an image of the on the side of the lander. Intuitive Machines with NASA and SpaceX will be, they were supposed to have a liftoff this June, but now it's been postponed to the third quarter. But this is the finished artwork of 125 moons within this cube. Each one is named for a person throughout world history that's made an accomplishment to humankind. Now, it's quite subjective in putting a list together, but there are people that range from Muhammad Ali, Cleopatra, Ramesses II, Plato, David Bowie. There's a wide range of names. But I wanted to make a piece that was about aspiration and of meaning.
And then you get a little NFT, non-fungible token, if you buy it. So you have something back home. Here on Earth.
The artwork actually has three components. The component that goes to the moon, which will be a heritage site in perpetuity. It's supposed to be the first authorized artwork on the moon for space tourism. There will be an Earth component, which the one image we were looking at, which is about a 12-inch stainless steel moon that has the moon phase and the name of the particular individual of that moon phase. I think that image was Leonardo da Vinci. But as soon as the lander lands, it will photograph the cube. And when the lander lands, that's the installation of the piece on the moon. It will send back immediately that image photographed of the CubeSat from the lander. That photograph alone costs $660-some thousand just to receive it. But that gets embedded into an NFT, and there'll be 125.
Jeff, you also collect art. For people who want to start an art collection, where do you start? Are there pieces that you must have? Do you choose with the heart? Do you choose with the head?
I'm very fortunate that, I love art, and when I see something that I acquire, it's usually I want to protect it. I love it, I respond to it, and I want to protect it. I also collect that I want to be able to have an effect on my children so that they can live with works, they can see works, and that they can understand that art is much broader than their father and their mother, because my wife, Justine's also an artist. But I think people have to just listen to themselves and what they respond to, because art can be anything. It doesn't require anything. You don't have to know about anything. You just have to come to it with your past experiences. And there's nothing which is more important or more relevant than anything else. You could enjoy a little keepsake that your parents had in their home, and that's as relevant, as important to you as maybe one of the major works from the Egyptian Museum of King Tut or something. What's really relevant is the meaning that you find in it.
You've also been involved in commercial projects. How do you choose what you want to be involved with, which brand you want to be associated with?
I'd like to always feel that I'm connected to my work, and that the motivations, the interest, I have a connection to. I'm not just designing in more of a realm of just creating an element that I don't feel connected to. So I only choose the things that I enjoy. I've worked with BMW, and I've enjoyed that because we both, BMW and myself, we have great interest in engineering and in creating things of quality and of speed, of things that are dynamic. And also I like the connection that BMW's had with other artists. They've worked with Andy Warhol and Rauschenberg and Stella and Jenny Holzer, many, many artists.
Can you tell us, one of my favorite stories is when you met Salvador Dali. How did that happen? Because it's a remarkable story.
My mother noticed in a magazine that Salvador Dali would spend half his year in the St. Regis Hotel in New York. And she showed me this article, and so I thought, well, I'll call the hotel and I'll see if I can speak with Salvador Dali. So I called the St. Regis. I asked if I could be put through to Salvador Dali's room, and they put me through. And Salvador Dali answered the phone, and I told him I was a young artist, and I was in art school, and that I'm a fan, and I would love to meet him. And he told me if I come to New York that weekend, he would meet me at 12 noon on Saturday in the lobby of the hotel. And I went to New York, and sharply at 12 noon, the elevator doors opened. Salvador Dali came out with a huge buffalo fur coat on, diamonds in his tie tack and his silver cane, and his mustache was up. And I introduced myself to him, and he told me that he had an exhibition at the Knoedler Gallery, and that if I wanted, and he was going to meet a French journalist there, and if I wanted to go there, he would meet me there. And so I told him I would love to go to see the exhibition. And so he went his way, I went my way, and I met him there. And when we arrived, he was with this tall, blonde woman, and walking around, and he was showing her a surrealist collection. And show was divided in two parts. Dali curated a surrealism collection, and then the other part was his new works, and some works also from the 60s. But I didn't realize until a couple years ago, but that the French journalist was Amanda Lear. And Amanda Lear was Dali's muse during the 70s, and his total inspiration. But he came over, he spoke with me, he asked me if I wanted some photographs, so he posed for some photos in front of a painting, The Royal Tiger, and he put his mustache up for me, and I was nervous, so I'm there kind of moving around with my camera, and he said, "I can't hold this pose all day, kid, please come on." But, you know, I photographed him. Do you have a photo of that?
I don't think
possibly,
we have it, but I know you posted on Instagram.
I had it
so
on
we'll
Instagram.
have to.
But I went back to Baltimore that evening. I was going to art school there, and I felt like I could be part of something. I could be part of the avant-garde, and that I could make art a way of life. And so I'm very, very generous. I'm very grateful to Salvador Dali for his generosity, because it was extremely kind and generous to be so open to a stranger.
And Jeff, you were very, very generous with your time tonight, so thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we do have a very, very special performance coming up next in just a few minutes, so please sit tight. This way, other way.
Good evening. I hope you are enjoying dinner. The pearl trade was a major pillar of the Qatari economy, and that trade gave birth to an art form. Pearl diving produced a genre of music called Fijiri, which means music of the sea. Qatari contemporary composer, songwriter, and symphonic artist Dana Al Fardan seeks to preserve this art form. In her piece, Ayoka, she incorporates these authentic traditional components from the Qatari heritage merged into a Western-style orchestral configuration. Aisha Aziani is a Qatari singer and songwriter who impressed us with her voice for the official soundtrack of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022, Hayya Hayya, Better Together, which had over 5 million views and counting. Please join me in welcoming Aisha Aziana, Omar Bursakar, Jebala, and the members of the Qatari Philharmonic Orchestra to the stage for a special performance of Akoya by Dana El Fardan.
السلام عليكم جميعا.
Your Highness,
صاحب السمو، أصحاب السعادة، الحضور الكرام، أريد أن أشكر المؤدين وأيضا أريد أن أشكر جهاز استثمار قطر. استمتعوا ببقية